Hello, my name is Madison Fanning, and this is my ARC531 Project 1 analyzing the map. A thing well begun is half done. This is the map here. It was created by Victor Gillum in 1899. He actually was publishing for the magazine Judge, as we can see up top here. This was a satirical political cartoon. It was very well known for Judge to publish weekly, and within each centerfold would be a new picture, map, or cartoon image of events that were going on in the world. This image here was made using a chromolithograph, which means there was actually a series of stones or plates with different colors on it to then imprint onto the page. As we can see looking at the map here, this actually has to do with the proposition of the Nicaragua Canal. This was before the Panama Canal was a thing because at the time that location was claimed by France. So looking at this map, we can see some very basic things such as a lot of American flags claiming what is ours. But we can also see President McKinley at the time having one foot in the United States and one foot over Central America, ready to carve this canal for the US. To understand this situation further, we first have to look back at what had recently happened. The Spanish-American War had just ended in 1898. As a result of the victory was the Treaty of Paris, which was signed at the end of 1898. And during this, Cuba gained independence from Spain, and Guam and Puerto Rico were both seceded to the US. And then in February of 1899, the treaty was then ratified due to Spain selling the Philippines to the United States for $20 million. So due to the Treaty of Paris and us winning the Spanish-American War, this was seen then as a turning point and really put the US in the front of actually being a global power. So looking at this map of Nicaragua, we can see where a possibility could have been drawn up of how the canal would have taken place going from the Atlantic Ocean, where the Caribbean Sea is, over to the Pacific. It would go through where there's least amount of terrain and most water, so it would probably be going through the Lago de Nicaragua and then along some of those rivers that are already seen as well. So looking at some areas of Victor Gillum's original map here, we can see how he had great detail when it came to what America was doing. For example, when it came to Cuba, not only was it claimed by the US for being purchased, but it was also then surrounded by naval ships in this cartoon, more so emphasizing our claim on the territory. The picture that we see on the left here with Uncle Sam and the White House is the only architecture that is actually present within the map, but the presence of the US Capitol this large and close to the action is unrealistic, and it just exaggerated the presence that we had going on, and it established our domestic political authority. Now, Victor Gillum's map was not the only cartoon that was happening at this time. Here's actually another drawing by Victor Gillum in 1899. And as we can see, it's actually showing the growth of Uncle Sam, if you will, over the different victories that we have had, now ending with starting in 1783, where we formed the Union, and then as he has grown with gaining either land masses or wars, we can now see in 1899 how we've now gained outside of mainland. We have Cuba, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico from the Treaty of Paris. And now that then the world is seeing this, such as we can see Russia, Germany, and Italy, they're wanting to be more friendly with us due to seeing that we have power. Another photo that we can see here, which was actually published during the beginning of 1899, it's the split of more so the East and West, and the idea of we are going to be isolated or work on expanding, which leads into then the map that Gillum drew for this project, especially showing the idea of trading and expanding what we have. Now, when you look at the map, we notice that the only architecture there was the White House. And from the perspective then, it did not include anything from the countries that we then laid claim to, such as Cuba, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico. So without taking these into consideration, we are just showing from a one-sided perspective rather than taking into consideration who we are actually affecting by these claims and their views and opinions. Therefore, the map that Victor Gilliam drew empties the hemisphere of its own cultures and it replaces them with just American symbols, being that America is the storyteller. And then this also virtually erases indigenous and local built environments to suggest that the American way is the better way in the view of Victor Gilliam. So finally, here we are looking at a thing well begun is half done again. And we can really see how, from the American perspective, this is a great thing. The idea of expanding our land masses globally across oceans, but then also if we were to secure the Nicaraguan canal, we then have an area to trade not only among ourselves, but also allowing trade then with other countries and then increasing how we are seen as a global power. These were the citations and sources that I had used overall for my project one and where I had gathered all my information. Thank you.